Hey guys, it's Mustafa, and in this video, I'm going to be going over how to run tests for ads the proper way, right? Now, wherever you go to learn about ads, right, whether it's a course, a video, whatever, right? A lot of people, they love to say test, right? Test this, test that, especially nowadays. I recommend this as well, testing creatives. Now, the issue is, and the issue that I have with it, is that they never actually show how to test or show what you should test, etc. So basically, in this video, I'm going to be going over what you should be testing, right? How you should be testing it, and yeah. Because if you don't do it the proper way, I can guarantee you, even if you test, let's say, 1,000,000 things, if you're not doing it properly and you're just doing random tests, right? Which is what, basically, if you just listen to the advice that's around, that's what you're going to end up doing, because you don't have to test properly. So you're just going to end up testing random things. And I can guarantee you, you won't win. At least you won't win as much as you could, right? You might still win, but you might get a few winners, and it might be inconsistent, but you could still win. But it won't be to the degree that you could win if you actually knew how to test properly. Now, when it comes to structure, here's how you're going to want to structure it, right? Now, you want to have a winners campaign. What this is going to be is when you test stuff, of course, hopefully you should get some winners. And when you get those winners, you want to put them into this campaign, right? So this campaign will just include, again, all your winners. Now, the ad set, you could just have one ad set and just chuck all your winners into this ad set. And obviously the ads within that ad set will just be winning ads. Now, you're going to want to have this running all the time, and this should probably have, I say probably, but it should have a majority of your budget, maybe like 80%, right? Now, next, you're going to want to have a test campaign, right? This campaign will be where you're constantly testing, and we keep this separate so it doesn't affect our winning ads. Because sometimes you might alter something, you want to test it, or maybe within an ad set, or budget-wise, etc., and you might ruin the winners. So you want to have this completely separate to the winners campaign. Now, when it comes to ad set, here you can have a bunch of ad sets if you want to. So, because maybe you might target a different audience or anything, right? It could be anything. So you can have multiple different ad sets. You can also have one ad set, right? Because you might want to test stuff at the ad level instead. So, but within the ad set, you can, test different angles, different audiences. You can test, they have removed DCO, and so you can't really test that now, but they do have a flexible ads, but that's within the ad level. So yeah. But yeah, as I said, you can have as many ad sets as you need, just so you can test, right? Now, as it says at the bottom there, you want to avoid testing more than just one thing at a time. So let's say you're testing different angles, just test that. Don't test different ads, don't test, audiences, etc. Let's say you want to test different angles. So one angle is towards people that are into fitness, and another angle is towards people that are, I don't know, just into their health in general, whatever, right? Those are two different angles. You might have a third angle. That's all you should be testing. Keep everything the same, as you want to have controls, right? If you just test, let's say you test different audience and you test, what's it called, a different angle, you don't know whether it was the angle or the audience, and there was no point of testing, right? You might get lucky here and there, and you have like, oh look, this done really well, but you have no clue why that done well. So that ruins the whole point of testing, right? And this is what I mean when I say testing properly. So if you test without actually knowing how to test, or if you make these mistakes, your test has basically just gone to waste. So keep that in mind. Only test one thing at a time. And even if there's situations where, for us, right, if there's situations where it requires us to speed up the testing, we might test multiple things at once. Probably at two things at once, right? And even then, we have ways that we at the end, we know what done well. So this might require a lot of budget, but if you were to test two different audiences and two different angles at the same time, for example, you can have the two different audiences, right? And then two different ads, angles, and you can have ad set for each. So you can have one with the first audience, right? And then that has that angle, and the second audience, and it has that same angle. And you have another, so the other audience, then it has that angle, this, that. So basically for each angle, we'll test the two audiences. Now, I don't know if that really made sense, but I'll give you an example here, right? Let me just quickly put it here. So let's say you have angle 1 and you have angle 2, right? Let's put this down here. And then you have audience 1 and you have audience 2. Now what we would do is, as I said, we try to even stay away from this, but if there's situations where it requires us to speed up the testing, we will do this. So let's say we have angle 1, angle 2, audience 1, audience 2, right? So what we'll do is we have, let's say this is an ad set, right? And it's gonna have angle 1, audience 1. And then the next ad set will have angle 1 again, but then we'll have audience 2, right? And so on and so forth. So each angle will be in both audiences. And now, as I said, this is if you want to speed up, and then you're going to need a lot of budget for this, because each of these, so that would be about, what, 4 ad sets? Pretty sure, yeah. And obviously, if you have more angles, if you want to test more audiences, you're going to have even more. And it's going to require a lot of budget, because each of these, you're going to want to have, well, at least for us, we're going to want to have at least this is like 50, right? $50, £50, whatever, in each of these. So it's going to be quite costly for some brands, especially if you're starting out. So what I'd suggest is just sticking to one, testing one thing at a time, and test it for about, I'd say, 2 weeks at least, just so you can go through 2 full weeks, right? And then that, because the whole week is a cycle, if you determine the results based off 1 week, there might have, something might have happened within that week. Whereas if you do it over 2 weeks, it kind of evens it out, and you'll have a more accurate, you have more accurate results. So I suggest testing one thing at a time for 2 weeks. Now, going back into the ads, here you'll be testing content. That's the main thing you'll be testing on the ad level. So for example, if you're testing different marketing angles, you may want to have different style videos, right? You test in each ad, because you can have the same angle, right? But you can just have different styles. So it could be like an interview style, or it could be a more of a UGC style. So you can have different styles when it comes to that within the same one angle. So yeah. Okay, I'm not sure what it says here. I probably just messed up what I wrote, but as it says, just remember, I think what I'm trying to say is, now you can have the exact same style. So you can have different angles, let's say for the ad set, but then within the ad, for that same angle, what I basically said, you can have different styles of that angle. So what you can do is, for example, let's say you have, as I said, an angle for people that go to the gym, and an angle for people that just overall care about their health. Now, that's 2 ad sets right there, right? Now, within those ad sets, you can have, let's say you have 3 different style of videos, right? So for ad set 1, people that go to the gym, you have an interview style video, you have a UGC, so someone, let's say, unpacking it and using the product, and the third video might just be a testimonial, so someone that's used it previously and then they were happy with it. So that's 3 different styles for that one marketing angle. Now you want to go take those 3 styles and use the same style within the second marketing angle. So people that now care about health, you want to have the same styles there, right? So someone public interview, unboxing, and then like a testimonial video of someone that's used it, right? This way you can actually keep the test consistent still, and you can actually get accurate results. Again, you don't want to have different styles, right? Let's say you have 2 different marketing angles, right? You don't want to have different styles for those marketing angles within the ad. Then it's just, again, you won't get accurate results because you're just testing random things. So you want to keep it consistent in that way. Now, of course, I went over some things you can test, like the marketing angle and different creatives, etc. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some things that we mainly test. And yeah, but as you can see at the end here, it says you can test almost anything. So you don't have to stick to these, just these, I should say. If you go into your campaign, you can test almost anything. Anything there. Let's say you see, I don't know, campaign, I think it's campaign budget optimization. Test that on and test it off, right? So yeah, that's what testing is. The main thing you want to do is you just want to, as I said, actually have a control, right? So don't just test everything at the same time. That way you're not going to know, like, I'm going to ask you this question, right? Let's say you probably done some tests, right? As a brand owner, you probably ran ads and you're like, okay, I'm doing tests as everyone's telling me to do. You run those tests at the end, you're like, okay, this worked, right? Let's say you got something that worked. You're lucky, it worked. You're like, okay, but why did this work? And you don't know, and then once that stops working, which ads eventually do, right? Then you're like, okay, what do I do now? And you don't know, because you don't actually know what works, what doesn't, because your tests, they weren't done properly. So the main thing you need to keep in mind before I go over these is that test one thing at a time. And yeah, that's basically it. Now what you can test is you can test angles, as I mentioned. So here the example is money saving versus space saving. Second thing you can test is test visuals. So you can do, if you're doing static images especially, you could do top bottom compare, you could do diagonal compare, or you could do colored compare, right? Third thing you can test is messaging. So this would basically just be how you're saying things. So big on copywriting when it comes to this, right? So when it comes to messaging, you want to make sure it resonates with your target customer. So let's say you're testing a specific angle, like money saving, your copy actually has to cater to that audience, so they can be like, okay, it gets them actually emotional about your product and gets them to buy or click onto your ad. So that's really important. But obviously the only way you can actually come to a good conclusion of what sort of messaging will work for that customer base you only get to that point by testing. So you can test this specific copy versus that specific copy and see which, people that are interested in saving money, see which type of copy they resonate with more, which gets you better results. And then based off that, you'll be like, okay, this is what they're interested in, and you can carry on making copy like that. Fourth thing you can test is audiences. Now, since Facebook ads has been around, this is the main thing that people have been testing. It doesn't matter as much anymore. We typically find that 90% of the cases, we just leave the audience broad and it works, the best. So yeah. Nowadays, you can obviously, you have captions. So you can test a video with captions versus with no captions. They can test a call to action, right? So mainly what we do is shop now versus learn more. It's really weird. Some brands just learn more works better, right? So it depends on your, type of customers. Some of them respond to less salesy stuff, right? And some of them respond better to, just direct. 7th is headline, and 8th is primary text. And the list can go, on and on. So that's why I said you can test almost anything. Now, some things you're going to keep in mind, which I didn't mention in this document. Now, first thing is, when it comes to testing, once you get winners, you want to base your next test off of those winners. So that's another big thing, right? So I'm gonna go over these. I'm gonna write these actually. So things to keep in mind. So obviously we went over the first thing. The first thing was test one thing at a time, or more specifically, what you want is a control. So what I mean by what you want as a control is some things have to stay the same, right? So the test that works, let's say the test worked, you know that it was the test that you've done or what you've done. So let's say, for example, you tested an audience, right? If that audience, this audience works better than that audience, right? This is the one that, works, right? This first audience. Now, if you tested audiences and on top of that, you tested, for example, locations, right? Or you tested, let me give you an example. Or you tested creatives at the same time. Now, if you didn't do it properly, let's say one of them done better than the other. Now, you don't know whether it was the audience or you don't know whether it was the creative. So this is why it's important to test one thing at a time. Or as I said, there's ways to test multiple things at the same time, but you're going to require a lot. It's going to require a lot of ad spend, of course, because you're going to have to basically have double or even triple sometimes the ad sets or tests running at the same time in order to actually get an accurate representation. But majority of the time, I know I keep going on about this, but it's because it's so important. Just test one thing at a time, please. Right, the second thing is you're going to want to base, right, your next tests off of the previous wins. Now, I don't know why people do this, right? But I see it. So I go and, let's say we get a new client, right? We look into their ads and they're just running random, like they have winners, but then their tests are just completely different and it's just random, right? Now, the whole point is once you get a winner, you want to base your next batch of tests or your tests from there on out based off those winners. So if this worked, let's say this worked, you take this and you make different versions of it. You might add, you might take away from it and see if you can get something that works better than this winner. You don't just have a winner, you're like, okay, cool, and just start testing random things. Why would you do that, right? You got a winner, that's data, right? You use that data to make more tests. Now, if you're just doing random tests, you're just ignoring the data basically, you're not going to get very far, right? I don't know why people do this, but when you get a winner on Facebook ads, use that, right? Use that as data to actually go ahead and make more tests and win even more, right? Don't just make random tests. I don't know why people do that, right? So another thing is don't make random tests. Especially, obviously the first time round, you're gonna have to make random tests because you don't have any data to go based off. But after you do your first test, right, you'll have some ads or some creative. For example, let's say you tested 50 creatives that month. You're gonna have a few that are, outperforming the rest. Your next batch of creatives, right, next month you make 50 again, based off the winners that you have from this month, right? Don't just do random tests. Now, another thing is, this is a key thing when it comes to us, right, and why some of our ads are so successful, and it's that you wanna test 50 plus creatives per month, right? So you wanna test 50 or more creatives per month. Now, this doesn't have to be completely different creatives. you can have, let's say you make 5 or 10 videos that month, you can make different variations of it. So, you know, you can have someone come in and just edit up a bit. So out of those 5 videos, you can make, let's say 10 variations for each. That way, now you have 50, right? So you don't have to make 50 completely new creatives. As I know, for a lot of brands, that's a lot of, you know, a lot of bandwidth that you need to be able to do that, a lot of budget, etc. So I'm not saying make 50 different ones, but at least make 5 to 10 and just make variations of those, right? Yeah, so that's the 3 main pointers, I should say, to keep in mind. If you want, go ahead, screenshot it. Because trust me, you do these 3 things right here and forget everything else that you hear about ads, right? Like, you know, targeting this audience, specifically blah, 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 right? The algorithm's good. If you get these things here right, you don't need any of that. All you need to do is test one thing at a time, right? Base your test of previous winners, and you want to test 50 creators per month. Do that, and I can guarantee you, right? Now, of course, not trying to get sued, but I can guarantee you, right, with 99.9% certainty that you will have successful ads if you do this over, let's say, 3 to 6 months, right? So yeah. Now, if you're an e-commerce brand and you have over 50,000 visitors per month, and you need this or a ton more done for you, check the link below, right? But yeah, that's it for this video, right? Now I'm gonna make a lot more of these videos, right? And if you have any requests, make sure to comment it down below, right? So if you have any questions, etc., about anything to do with e-commerce, subscribe as well so you get notified when I do post. And if you did like this video, there's a button for that. And yeah, see you guys next time.